many times, especially as we get older, we tend to not respect young people. They're a lot more educated than we were. They are. Sure. They're a lot more informed. Yeah. So back in the day when your dad told you that, whatever he told you, you had no way to fact check him, so you just believed it. And that's why my dad knew everything, my mom knew everything, and it's done. Now we're saying these kids don't respect their adults. It's because we can no longer do that. So if you're still out there trying to tell, hey, I'm an adult, so you listen to me. Well, if you're telling them a bunch of bull crap and they can simply get on Google and say, yeah, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, we're losing the respect of our youth by doing that, by not being educated. If we are going to pretend we're all knowing, we need to be all knowing because they can check you, right? Yeah. So if they're into video games, cool, like respect that. Yeah. Teach them the importance that being on video games all day is not the best use of time. Yeah. Video games should be how you reward yourself after a hard day of work. Get your homework done, keep your room clean, blah, blah, blah. You do all these things, then I'll reward you by getting you the new PS5 or whatever, But don't say, oh, video games are out, I know from experience, right? I've tried that and it never, even when it works. I was a drill instructor for 5 years. I can control a young mind and get them to do what I want, right? Yeah. But anytime with my son, when I took that approach where I took video games from him and put him on a strict schedule, boom, it was working like clockwork. But how did I feel in here? I was pulling the strings. I was a puppet master. I was making him do what I want.
I feel like that's kind of what it is. It's like, you don't really know where you're teeter-tottering anymore as a parent and as like an adult. They are learning faster than us. So it is kind of hard to kind of balance with the youth now because a lot of them are so educated, or in their heads they're so educated that they know more than pretty much anyone. So we have our youngers that are kind of stepping up a little bit more than we would normally see, but we also have the ones that don't step up at all because they're...
Well, in some aspects, right? Yeah. In some of the aspects that so you were talking about schools, right? With my daughter, I don't experience that. They do have a tablet, but the teacher's very involved and everything. It's at least that school. It's a great school. I haven't dealt with that yet, but I have heard there's some schools that are way too much going into technology. But if you take a realistic approach, look at my daughter's in 5th grade. If I look at what she's doing in 5th grade, all the stuff that she's doing, all the things she has to keep in track of, some of the things they do on the laptop, they're doing PowerPoint presentations, they're doing all this other stuff. When I look at 5th grade, are you kidding me?
I was
5th grade?
in like 20, so
yeah, we were reading a paragraph, answering the 5 questions at the end, doing some basic math, and that's it. No, they're doing like this whole, everybody was up in arms about this whole, what's it called? What's this math?
This Common Core?
Yeah, the Common Core stuff. To me, at least with my mind, I understand it was a loss in translation. In my mind, that's how my mind's always worked, right? I can't look at a problem and learn a formula and that's how I get my answer. I have to understand. And the way my mind works is I imagine things in the air, all that. I don't know. I might be on the spectrum or something. But so when that came about, I understood what they were trying to do. But the problem is they're trying to have a structured way to do that to all these 22 different kids in there whose minds work differently. That's why it doesn't work, but it does at least open their mind to looking at it from different ways. And in the long term, I think it does something. It makes it a lot harder just to teach basic, to get from point A to step 1 to step 2. And it's not linear, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, they implemented it. My daughter was in 6th grade when they implemented Common Core in this area. And my daughter went from being a straight A student to failing right away. That full year was hard. So then it took her quite a few years to catch back up. But that was what kind of was hard for especially us too, like parents. I could not sit down with my kids and do homework with them anymore.
Now, in the long term, once she changed the way that she studies and everything, and she got her grades back up, do you think it was beneficial for her? The way that
I do, only because I didn't really believe in it at first. I was definitely against it, but once seeing it now and now seeing her, she's a math whiz now. She could do math in her head, but she transitioned, so she had 5 years of learning like we did. And then into
that was the hard part.
The new transition.
That was the hard part. Again, people don't like change because it's change, just for the base of change. That was the hard part, is that it was change. It was hard for the kids. It was hard for the parents because they've never seen it. But like I said, my mind, I don't know. I was in fourth grade, when we moved back to Mexico, we had a little convenience store, and my dad would sit there while I actually ran the store. So give me a soda, give me some chips, give me this and that, and I had to quickly do math in my head, give change. So I got really good at it. I probably gave away too much change here and there because the client, if you don't give enough change, they'll call you out on it. If you give them too much change, they shut up and leave, right? Yeah. But I learned by the time I was in sixth grade, my dad could leave and I would run that store. I could. So that's why my mind with numbers works well. Where yes, where my wife is on the other side, where her emotional intelligence is through the roof. She can sense in somebody when they're, something's wrong, and to a whole nother level that I can't. But I throw some numbers at her and she's like, hold on, like it's just different skills. But anyways, back to the original thing about these kids. Respect what their interests are, show interest, understand what their interests are. You're gonna see it's not that bad. And once you have that connection, right? It's not about get rid of the phone, get rid of the video games. No, show interest, understand. Hey, what are you doing here? Oh, there's people on Twitch making a bunch of money. Get involved. Once you do that, they will reciprocate that. Right? They will once you're showing interest and supporting them, and it doesn't happen immediately. Kids, all of us. Psychologically speaking, if you're ever taking a psychology class, we are selfish by nature. That's how we're wired. We are, and we do everything as a community to kind of push back on that so that we don't go around messing with each other. But by nature, we're selfish, and kids are the most selfish by nature. It's normal. It takes them time to realize that being too self-centered actually has a negative impact in them in the long run, right? So even the act of not being selfish and getting along as a community is selfish. We're doing that so that this community gets better so we can enjoy it, right? It's all, and once you accept that, it's not a bad thing. But kids are selfish, and that's fine. It's going to take a while, but show interest in what they do, and then you will find a chink in their armor at some point and figure out that, they like to ride bikes. Let me get them a bike and take them to this park sometime, and I'll get my bike. Let's go ride mountain bikes. You'll figure something out. Get them involved in sports. Get them in something. You'll figure out an outlet somewhere. And whether he becomes a complete baseball kid that loves to, be in teams, or he just does that here and there. My oldest told me, I don't want to play football anymore, Dad, when he was like 8. They're a year and a half apart, and my second oldest is actually the athletic one, very athletic. So it got to a point where they got to a certain age where it was a 2-year, every 2 years you would move up. So they were on the same team. And now you have my oldest, whose younger brother is outshining him, right? My youngest is the quarterback or the running back. We're scoring touchdowns. He's on the line, right? Okay. So he didn't like it. He didn't like that. And he said, I don't want to play football anymore. So at the time I said, you know what? Your coach that you have is kind of an a-hole. I understand you didn't have a good time. Give me one more year. If after one more year you still don't like it, then you don't have to do it. I'm not going to force you. Give me one more year. We didn't hear about it the whole time he played, like he normally does. He's not the most athletic. Hand-eye coordination isn't his strong suit or anything. He's the responsible one that cleans his room without me telling him, stuff like that. But sports wasn't his thing. After that, at the end of the season, hey, do you want to play or no? No. Okay, fine. You don't have to play anymore. But your brother's got 2-hour practice every day, so that means you're going to do more chores. And you're not going to sit there every day. We had a treadmill at the time. You're going to get on the treadmill, 2-3 times a week. I don't want you just sitting around, especially he was a little chubby when he was a kid. So I put him on the treadmill, and he put on his device, his videos, and he just started, and he hated it, right? But again, he's the guy that he'll clean his room without me telling him because he doesn't like to be told to do stuff. Yeah. So after a while, he'd get on the treadmill himself. I started him at a mile, or I started him at half a mile, added a quarter mile. By the time he was like doing 1.5 miles, and he could, run or walk, whatever, just finish it, just get active. He would do it on himself. And he used to run real heavy-footed. We'd be downstairs, the treadmill was upstairs. So all of a sudden you hear, pa, 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 because again, his motor skills weren't there. Pa. But as he kept doing that, he became lighter on his feet. Wow. By the time middle school, he realized that he was faster than most kids. High school, he joins cross country. And he's graduating from Dominican University, cross-country scholarship. That's what's up. From my kid that was chubby and couldn't run, would run real heavy-footed, and now he's the fastest guy I know. Even my fastest days were not as fast as this guy is, But so finding that common ground and just finding something that works